Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome back to the Beamer Barn. Today I'm going to teach you my secret formula for getting the cheapest drain and recharge for the AC system on your BMW, and I'm going to show you what kind of equipment I use to recharge this system at home. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. Now, if you've watched our channel, then you know that in front of me here, I have my E91 335i swapped car. This was originally 325xi, and we did an N54 drivetrain swap and rear-wheel drive conversion. But because of that, we had to drain all the fluids from the drivetrain before installing it in the car, including the AC system. Now you can see the valves right here and then over here in the engine bay, and these had to be professionally drained at a shop. Now I'll tell you, my secret is going to the tire shop and telling them that you just want them to drain the AC system, so they'll take all the Freon out of it. And I personally get charged $40 for just a drain. They're gonna keep the Freon though. You can let them know they can keep it. They might even give you a discount because Freon is worth a little bit of money, but let them keep that and then move on to doing whatever service work you're gonna do on the car. If that means replacing your AC compressor, condenser, anything along those lines, you will have to drain the AC system because it's a crime to drain the Freon into the atmosphere. So in my case, since we don't have any charge in here, we're gonna need to start by vacuuming out the system, confirming that there aren't any leaks, and then we can proceed to putting Freon in the system, and I'm gonna show you guys how to get the exact right amount. So in front of me, we have all the tools and equipment that we're gonna need to do this job. Starting with the biggest one, this is a vacuum pump. It's gonna make the job a lot easier than trying to use something connected to like an air compressor. I don't exactly know how those work, but this one comes with vacuum oil, which we're gonna need to fill in a moment because I just bought this brand new. Then we have our AC gauges and hoses. So this is how we're going to check how much pressure is in the AC system, as well as fill it with Freon using this little tap kit right here. And this is gonna go on the R134A bottles that we bought from Advanced Auto Parts. So these are 12-ounce bottles. Our system requires that we have at least 2 to get the correct amount. And we're gonna use a scale to measure exactly how much we're putting in the system so that we don't overcharge it or undercharge it. Now we're gonna start by setting up the gauges, and these are the easiest to do considering it's all labeled with colors and such. And the hook is gonna go right there onto one of the hooks for your hood. And now we can go ahead and get the lines routed. Now this manifold is really easy to use, being that it's all color coded, and the fittings here for the hoses just need to be finger tight, so you don't want to over tighten them because that could ruin the seals. And you see here that the yellow hose is the one that we're mainly going to be working with, but we need to first get the cold and the hot lines on. So the cold line, you can see right here, it's got a bit of a smaller fitting head on it, and I think that's going to correspond over here. So we're going to take off this protective cap here. And this blue line here is gonna go right on top of that, but we wanna make sure first that it is completely closed. So go ahead and turn it counterclockwise, make sure it's closed, grab the clamp, push the fitting on, and it should lock on. Same thing on the hot side over here. Go ahead and remove this plastic cover, make sure your gauges are 100% loose, and then go ahead and insert it on there. So now both of these are correctly installed, and we've tightened down the fittings that go to the hoses on each of them. So what we have to worry about now is getting a vacuum in the system. Now, since I just bought this vacuum pump actually off of Amazon, same thing with the hoses, and I'll go ahead and link all this stuff in the description below. But since it's brand new, we're gonna go ahead and have to fill up the vacuum oil. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. I think this is just basically like baby oil, but let's go ahead and get it installed. So now, before we do use the pump, we're gonna go ahead and take this vent cap off, and we've got the oil level right between min and max. So we can go ahead and take this pump. We're gonna place it somewhere nice and stable on the engine bay and disconnect the correct port because there are 2 different sizes there, but we want the one that's going to go ahead and connect to the yellow line for our AC manifold gauges. So now with the pump connected to power, we can go ahead and run it. There's a little switch here on the side. It's gonna make a little bit of noise there. And then up here on the gauges, these are gonna be closed. So we wanna open these up. 1 and 2. And then down here on the individual little clasps, we're gonna go ahead and open those up too. You can hear it, it's grabbing a lot of vacuum right now. And the same thing for this side right here. We're gonna go ahead and open up. Now what you can see is a little bit of moisture, a little bit of air obviously being pulled out of that system. That's because, like I said, we did have that open when we serviced the car. So we're just gonna let this vacuum pump do its thing, suck the entire system dry, and in a few minutes it'll be clear that this pump is done sucking the air out, and we can go ahead and move on to the next step. So after you've run the pump for a while, it should just max out the gauges and say that it has -30 PSI, and over here on the hot side, it doesn't show you any sort of reading for the negative. But you're gonna go ahead and make sure by closing these valves here that it holds a vacuum. So once you've got a good vacuum on it, this is step one, is closing off the valves. And then you wanna let this sit and come back to it in, let's say, 10-15 minutes. And you wanna make sure that these needles here haven't moved anywhere, because you want to know that there is no leak from any O-rings from your AC system. That's going to be a really important part of this process. So we'll come back in a couple minutes, make sure that this is at the same pressure, and then we're going to let the vacuum pump run for probably 30 minutes just to get any moisture or air out of the system and make sure that it's ready for us to install Freon. So let's go ahead and wait and make sure that this thing is sealed up, and then we'll move to the next step.
Eventually.
So now 10 minutes have gone by and we have no loss of vacuum here on the gauges. So we can go ahead and turn the pump back on and open up these manifolds. And now we're gonna let the pump run for about 30 minutes. And like I said, that's gonna evacuate any residual moisture or air in the system before we install the Freon. So let me cut back to you now once 30 minutes has gone by.
Moments later.
So now after 30 minutes, we can go ahead and close off these valves, and then we'll turn off the pump. And that ensures that there's a complete vacuum held in the system so that we can remove this line off the pump. And you see, now we're not putting any air in the system. So now we can move to the next step where we're now gonna put Freon onto this line and get it circulating in the system. So we've got 2 cans of Freon here, and that is because the total capacity for the E90 platform is gonna be 1.3 pounds. And let me show you how I know that. So here on the hood of my wagon, it says right there on the middle sticker in German a few things, but the charge is 1.3 pounds plus or minus 0.02 pounds. So that's kind of the air range for, in case you overfill or underfill a little bit. But that clearly indicates the charge, and it makes it really easy to check on the car. And I know that this car is swapped, but it's going to be exactly the same for the 335 as it is for the 325i. So back to these little cans, 1.3 pounds converts roughly to 20 or 21 ounces, and that's why we have this digital scale here. What we're gonna do is we can measure out the first one for fun, but the second can, we need to measure out exactly 8 ounces of fluid, since the first can is gonna give us 12, and the second one we wanna get 8 ounces of Freon out of here. So we'll have to weigh it throughout the process and make sure that we don't over or underfill our AC system. And that's what this little tool here is for. It's gonna go ahead and puncture the can and open the valve so we can get Freon into the line. And now, while most manifolds would have a purge valve up here, mine does not. So a little trick that I read online is you can go ahead and open up this valve for the R134A, and I could hear it right there make a little bit of a hiss. So there should be some in the line here. And since we don't have a purge valve, what we can do is just loosen this right here. It'll fill up the line with Freon up to this point, and then we'll be ready to start the procedure of getting the Freon into the car. So there we are, got a little bit of that lubricant on my fingers as well. But now what we're gonna have to do is start the car, and we're gonna begin the process of getting Freon into the car here. It's just gonna essentially involve holding the can upside down here so that the Freon drains at the bottom and out of it. And then we're gonna open up the cold side only, and that way the Freon will go into the compressor be compressed and go into what's called the hot side. So you don't want to mess with the hot side because pressures here are much higher than they are on the cold side, but it's going to be a good indicator to show you that your AC compressor is working is when this goes much higher than this number over here. So let's go ahead and start up the car. Now, as you saw from the manifold there, the pressure stopped increasing here and we didn't have any more Freon fluid coming through. So that tells me that this can is empty and we're gonna have to now transfer to our new can, purge this line here, and then have to weigh out exactly that last 8 ounces that we're gonna be installing in this system because we wanna get it exactly perfect. Now, it is already cold inside of the car here. The AC is pumping out cold air, but I know it's gonna get a lot colder once we get it topped off. So let's finish the job. So we are all finished up, and let me go ahead and turn the car off here because the AC is blowing nice and cold. And if we take a look at our can, we see that we have 7.8 ounces of can left. And originally this thing weighed 15.2. So that tells me that we put about 7.4 ounces of that thing in, plus the 12 ounces from the first can that's in the trash. So we have almost 20 ounces in the AC system, just a little bit under what it should be filled to, but I think that we're gonna leave it there for now. We could top it off just a little bit more, but I just don't wanna risk anything. And I wanna see if this Schrader valve here is leaking because it appeared to have a little bit bubbling up from that seal there. So I just wanna keep an eye on that, as well as the low side Schrader valve. Those are very common points for these systems to leak. And unfortunately, it would mean we'd have to evacuate the whole AC system again to change it. So let's keep an eye on it for now, but I hope you guys learned something about using this manifold and vacuum pump at home to recharge your AC system. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like or a comment down below, especially if you have any questions. I myself or someone else in the comments might be able to help you. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy BMW content like this. As always, I hope everyone has an amazing day, and we will see you in the next video.